Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Working a Side Hustle for Better Job Security, Extra Income, and Creative Freedom, hosted by NAPW. My name is Russ Morrow, and it's my pleasure to moderate today's session. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all the NAPW members joining us today. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, NAPW is an online and face-to-face community made up of over 850,000 professional women who join together to cultivate valuable business connections, develop professionally, and promote themselves and their businesses. You can learn more about NAPW online at napw.com. Today's webinar is part of our Horizon Insights series, where we look to offer interactive virtual events and content featuring speakers who are experts and who can provide insights on the issues that help professional women shape their career and personal life. Before I introduce today's speaker, a few little pieces of housekeeping. Everybody is on mute, so don't worry, you can't be heard. Questions. There will be some time for questions at the end of today's presentation, and you can submit them through the sidebar on the control. Now, depending on the volume of questions that we get, we may not be able to get to all of them. But if that happens, we will do our best to answer them via blog post or by email, but we will certainly find a way to communicate answers to you. The big questions. Yes, this recording, the webinar, will be available to you after the session. We'll make sure it's emailed to you, and it will also be available on the BrightTalk platform, usually within a few hours. Okay, so without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Jena Viviano. Now, Jena is a career coach and a side hustle strategist who has maneuvered herself through a number of career changes, starting out in investment banking. She then moved on to the New York Stock Exchange, where she met and interviewed C-suite executives as their companies went public. Before moving on from New York City, she wrote, evangelized, and coached for the Muse, a career platform used by over 50 million candidates who are looking to advance in their careers. And it was here that she launched her side hustle and started encouraging others to do the same. Today, Jena's joined us and we'll discuss some of the benefits of running a side hustle. Jena, thank you so much for joining us, and let me hand over to you.
Thank you, Russ, so much for that wonderful introduction. I was telling him earlier that he needs to be my hype man and come around for all my things because he makes me feel so good. I'm so excited to chat with you all today here, a little bit about a side hustle, how to start one, why you need to start one right now, and give you some examples of some people that have done so in the past, and also give you some examples of how I've done so in the past. So I'm really excited to chat with you a little bit more about this subject. It literally is one of my favorite things to talk about, starting a side hustle, launching it, and helping it grow. So a little bit of the details about what we're going to talk about is why now specifically it's the time to start your side hustle. I'm going to make you want to start a side hustle by the time you're done listening to this presentation. The second thing is how a side hustle actually provides job security. So I think this is one of the biggest things and one of the biggest reasons why most people need to start side hustles nowadays, job security. Third thing is how to get over your fear of failure. So when I was thinking about starting a side hustle, I was super scared about starting. I'm going to tell you some of the ways in which I'm going to help you get over that. And the last bit are some tips, tangible tips to actually launch your side hustle. So a lot of people will say, yeah, Jena, I definitely want to start one. Sounds like a really great idea, but how do I actually do it? So I'm going to give you some tangible steps to take in order to propel yourself forward. I'm also going to give you some success stories of some people that have also done the same. So I would love to make this interactive. Please put your questions in as we're going through this. Would love to help answer anything that you may have. So a little bit about my story before we get started. So I'm sure most of you kind of think about your careers and you think about, okay, I went to college and I started this job and then I kind of went and then, oh my goodness, where did my career go? What am I doing? So that was me. So the picture that you see here on the screen is pretty much just how I thought about my career. It was like all over the place, big squiggly mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I was really confused when I got out of college. I did a major that my parents wanted me to take. I was a finance major, definitely wasn't designed for that, major, and I was really, really confused. So over the course of 5 different years, I had 4 different roles with 3 different companies until I actually launched my side hustle and then went full-time this past year. So I started off, as Russ had mentioned, working on Wall Street. I was an investment banker, working 100 hours a week, and realized quite quickly that life was not for me. And I always had this dream of starting my own business. I knew deep down, even when I was a young child, that entrepreneurism was something that was interesting to me. I just didn't know how to do it. So I quickly moved on from there and went and worked for the New York Stock Exchange for 2 years, which was really an awesome experience. If you ever want to hear stories, really cool stories about what it's actually like to work there, email me. I'd love to tell you them. It was a great place to work. So I worked there for 2 years, and during that time, I actually got the opportunity to explore what was I actually interested in. What did I like doing? What was I gifted at? And I used that exploration time to parlay myself into a career working for the Muse.com, which at the time was a 30-person company. So very, very small at the time. And over the course of 2 years, I grew with the organization in sales and then worked as their sales trainer, starting that program there. While I was there, I started my side hustle. And I can't wait to tell you a little bit more about how I did that and how I came up with that thing, that one specific niche that I was going after. But it was a really fun time. And over the course of 2 years, I built that side hustle up to a spot where I felt comfortable leaving my full-time job and going and working for myself full-time. So it's been an awesome ride. It's been really fun. And I know what it's like to go into the realm of how do I do a side hustle and how do I make this happen and then launch into it full-time. So again, if you have questions specifically around that, happy to share. So the first thing is, why should you start a side hustle right now? Personally, I believe it's incredibly financially irresponsible not to. That's a pretty bold statement. So what I think when I think of starting a side hustle is, in today's culture, things are really expensive. Who agrees with that? Things are really, really expensive. And if you have the opportunity, especially that since the barrier of entry is so low, which we'll get to and talk about, it's incredibly financially irresponsible not to. There's an old adage that says you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? But how many of you do that by just having one line of income, your salary? So many of us actually only have one line of income, which is our salary, which when I started to actually mull that over and think about that, it can make me very, very nervous, and it should make you very, very nervous too. Because in an instant, a job could drop you, you could lose your income, and then what are you going to do? You're going to be up a creek without a paddle. And that's what happens to a lot of my career coaching clients. When they come to me and they're like, Jena, I don't have a job, I don't have anything lined up, I have no money coming in, how am I going to be able to support my family? You don't want that to happen to you. So starting a side hustle is one of the most financially responsible things you can do for yourself and you can do for your family. The second thing is, you need to give yourself options. This is a great quote from my dad. He taught me all the best things in life. He was an entrepreneur himself, and he said, a company will only be as loyal to you as long as it makes financial sense for them. So downsizing is common. We were in an uptick where their unemployment rates were kind of low. I am seeing more and more that companies are laying their people off. Things are becoming more automated. Technology is taking the place of human jobs. You do not want to be stuck in a downsizing situation. Now, companies, leaders of companies do not want to lay people off. They don't want to do it. It's a PR nightmare for them. It's terrible. No one likes to actually lay somebody off. But at the end of the day, a company can only be as loyal to you as what makes financial sense for them. If they can't afford to pay you, they're not going to keep you, right? And so that's one of the scariest things that I learned, but it was so true. And I went through myself through actually a layoff, and it was kind of devastating. But I learned so much through that experience of why that side hustle was so important to me, because I knew that I would be able to be safe and be able to kind of supplement that income. It was never going to be an issue for me. So again, give yourself some options. Side hustles are really important to give yourself some options. And then just financial stability in general. So a lot of people have credit card debt. Pay that off. Pay off that school debt. We know I'm a firm believer that that's going to be the new mortgage crisis, the school debt crisis. That's a different subject. We can get on that later, but you want to give yourself that financial stability to pay off that debt, pay off those credit cards, build up a savings account. That's what I did. That got me to a point that I could actually go full time and not be scared about potentially not making enough money. Pay for family adventures. Does your family like to do some fun things, some fun travel? Use your side hustle to fuel that. Maybe you want to make a down payment on a home. Maybe you just got married and you're really excited about building your home together. Have a side hustle. Put that in your down payment fund. And the last part is invest. So it's not a subject we often talk about, and they don't teach you in college, which is good. Life skills classes I feel like are important, and we need to start implementing them in our college degrees if we're paying so much money. But invest that money. So if nothing else, you don't have to spend it, you can invest it. And then you're going to be setting yourself up and your family up for the future for success. So again, these are all some really great reasons of why you should be starting a side hustle. Why specifically now? So the barrier to entry right now is really, really low. So what do I mean by that? The internet has made it so easy for you to figure out a niche that you're interested in, to start a website, to have a payment platform. It is so much easier. I was talking to my dad. He started out in construction the year I was born, 1989. I'm about to turn 28 tomorrow. Well, Friday. So 28 years he's been in the business. He was in construction, and he started out a company. And the year I was born, which is very nerve-wracking for my mother, as you can imagine. And he was saying how his first year in business, I think he made like $15,000 or something. Not exactly very exciting. He said, but if I was in today's culture and I had all the resources available and had all the things that were available that made the internet so much easier to start a business, we wouldn't have been poor when you were younger. So that's the first thing. Barrier to enter is very low. Everyone's doing it. I'm going to show you some statistics that are going to prove to you that if you join it, you know, can't beat them, join them. That's what I'm saying here. You got to join us, have a side hustle, because most people are doing it nowadays. There are a ton of resources. I'm going to give you some examples of some resources. Take notes. These are going to be some good resources for you as you think about launching your side hustle and you're worried about all the logistical things that go along with that. And the last part is, the beauty of it is you don't have to quit your day job. I'm not telling you to start your own business from the ground up, from nothing, and quit your day job. I'm actually asking you to supplement your day job with something that's going to be that you're going to be passionate about, something that gives you creative freedom, something that you can work towards that's all your own, and you're not having a boss tell you exactly what you should do. So you're providing your family with that financial security, stability, and excitement. Actually, wouldn't that be nice to have that in our work again? So the barrier to entry is really low. I started my side hustle and I was only spending $50 a month max on it. And that was with website, that was with fees, that was with anything that I had that went along with it, any advertising, which I really didn't do a whole lot, to be honest. A lot of it was word of mouth. And I'll go through some examples of some people that have really grown their business just by no advertising alone. And there are some other platforms that are on here that are going to be really helpful for you if you have a service-based business or a product-based business. So Squarespace, my favorite brand out there. It's the best website platform out there. I will cheer them on until the very end. It's very cheap. It's very user-friendly. If you're worried about, I'm not a tech person, this makes it so much easier. Let's say you're a teacher and you're like, Jena, I don't know if I can do a side hustle. Teachers Pay Teachers is actually a really great resource and community commerce site, which probably a lot of you, if you're teachers, know about it. But I have a client right now who is building up her Teachers Pay Teacher side hustle. And basically she's providing content and resources for other teachers and selling it online. It's proving to be very lucrative. There's a really great book written by Chris Guillebeau, and it's called The $100 Startup. That book, get it, it's jam-packed with really great information about how to start a startup for only $100 or less. And they give examples of people that have actually grown their side hustles into full-fledged jobs and actually got to retire for, say, their spouse or their partner who actually came to work with them, which is pretty exciting. So there's some other brands that are on here. Airbnb, I'm sure you've heard of. That's a great side hustle. I know a lot of people do that as some side income. Fiverr is a site that if you do freelancing of any sorts, this is the way that if you're interested into graphic design, or if you're a writer on the side, or you really just enjoy writing people's resumes like I did, you can start and pitch your ideas for $5 and then build up your clientele through that. So there's a really small barrier to entry, and there's a lot of opportunity available out there on the internet. You just have to find your niche. The other thing is everybody is doing it. So more than 44 million Americans have a side hustle right now. That's a lot of people. I probably didn't realize that. Maybe some of you right now on the phone have a side hustle and you're like, how do I build this side hustle? How do I make it go bigger? And we're going to talk a little bit about growing. But those approaching retirement make $1,000 or more a month on their side hustle. I thought this statistic was really interesting because as the third bullet point talks about, I really thought it was just a millennial thing, this old side hustle thing. We just branded it. The millennials, we just branded it. People have been doing it for years and years and years, trying to make ends meet. But now I think it's even more so than just making ends meet. It's really providing yourself a future. So everybody's doing it right now. You don't want to be left behind. You also want to get in on the fun. That's another reason why. So again, tons of resources. So Side Hustle School, this is a great podcast you should check out. Entrepreneur on Fire, another one of my favorites, just to give you some inspiration and show you that ordinary people like yourself, like myself, can actually start a side hustle, be successful, not go crazy, find work-life balance, be creative. I mean, what more could you want? Nothing. Marie Forleo's B School is one of the first courses that I took that really inspired me and saw that I could do a service-based business and actually scale it and find success in that. and actually impact large amounts of people, which was really ultimately my goal, helping people figure out what they want to do with their careers and then how to get there. Marie Forleo's B-School and all of her resources really taught me how to do that. So there's so much information, free information out there for you to actually get your hands dirty, learn a little bit more about what it's like to start a side hustle and build your business. It does not have to be hard, I promise. All right, don't quit your day job. I'm encouraging you not to quit your day job. I do not think that every single side hustle needs to turn into a full-fledged job. I think that it just has to do with what you're interested in, what your goals are, and how you can encapsulate that into your entire career. So bits and pieces of that are really important. So do not quit your day job. It is not necessary to do that. While I was at the New York Stock Exchange, I started toying with some ideas, and I actually thought about leaving my full-time job and just starting a business. And I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad that I waited and did a side hustle for 2 years and before I launched full-time, because I was able to do a couple of things. I was able to figure out the kinks of my business. I was able to figure out and see, hey, what's working, what's not working, what type of clients do I like working with, what type of clients like working with me, who wants to pay me for things, what things are they paying me for. I was given kind of a runway time that when I launched full-time, it was easier just to grow and scale rapidly. Very fast I've been able to grow, but it was only because of that side hustle time that I get the opportunity to do that. The other thing is I was refining what my products and services looked like. Most people, when they start out their side hustle, it morphs into something else. When I started out originally, I had a blog. It was called Giant in Heels. You can make fun of me. I'm 5'10", and I like wearing heels, and it was a blog, and I wanted to be a fashion blogger, and I thought I was going to get promotions and all that kind of stuff, and that's how I was going to make money. That was not the plan God had for me, clearly. It was not very successful, but I learned a lot of really crucial things during that experience. So my point is, find something that you're passionate about. You don't have to quit your day job to start a side hustle, and you don't have to spend a whole ton of time actually making it happen, which we're going to get into. Awesome. So the biggest thing is what's holding you back. So there are a lot of things probably holding you back from this, and we're going to get into some of the ideas of probably what you're thinking. But for me, when I was thinking about launching a side hustle, I wanted, A, everything to be perfect, and 2, I was scared out of my mind. And mostly what I was scared about people's opinions of me. If I started launching something and if I started making them pay for it. I actually had a friend when I first started this, I was doing it on the side and didn't even have a website up, and he asked me for some career advice because he knew that I had switched around a lot. And that's kind of how I decided, hey, career counseling might be something that might be interesting to me, since a lot of people ask me for advice. And I said, well, for 30 minutes of my time, it'll be about $30. And he looked at me when we went to college together, and he started laughing. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life because I had felt so defeated by that statement of him. He was kind of a jerk to begin with, but that's beside the point. But I was so scared after that to actually ask for money for what the service that I was offering. So with a lot of you right now, you're probably thinking, this is really scary. Like, putting myself out there, like, I don't know if I can do that. All of that sounds fine and dandy, but I'm scared that I'm going to fail. I'm scared that it's not going to be perfect. I'm scared of what people are going to think of me. But I'm telling you, it's worth it in the end to get over that fear. And once I was able to get over that and kind of put the naysayers to rest, I was able to actually grow my business. So some things you're probably believing: that you need to be an expert marketer. I promise you don't. Those resources that I told you before make it plain and simple as to why you should as to how to be an expert marketer without being an expert marketer. There's a lot of sites right now that are giving creative tools for the non-creatives. So if you're worried about, like, I can't figure out the creative part of this, the graphics and all that kind of stuff, there's tools to help you with that as well. You need to have a lot of startup capital. As I debunked that earlier, you only need $50 a month, if that, to start your business. Probably less than that. I started my business with less than that, $0. You need to have a 6-figure idea. I think you should start small. This is not the time and place to come up with a startup that's going to grow and raise their Series A round of funding, like the company that I was in, Series B, Series C. I'm not telling you to do that. This is just to get something small on the side to help your family grow and you grow and give yourself financial security and a little bit of fun money too. Who doesn't want that? You don't need a ton of time. Side hustles, so long as you create appropriate boundaries, which is a different subject for a different day, and I learned that the hard way, you only need to do it a couple hours a week. Depending on what you do and depending on your side hustle, there are ways to streamline, there's ways to create processes, and there's ways to make sure that it stays encapsulated and stays small so you don't spend all of your time doing it. So you don't need a ton of time. A lot of people get confused about the processes, the legal stuff, the tax stuff figured out. for me, that was the biggest thing that kept me from actually starting my side hustle. I was so scared. I'm a rule follower. So I was so scared about figuring out all the tax stuff and the tax implications that I actually stalled even longer. And so finally, I just jumped the gun and I asked a couple of questions to a couple of friends of mine that had started side hustles on their own about how they went through the process, and it was a lot easier than I was making it out to be in my head. So if that's a concern of yours, it's easier than you think. And the last bit is you aren't an expert and you feel embarrassed charging money. So you are an expert, and I learned this from Marie Forleo. You are an expert in something that you know more about a certain topic than somebody else does. So for me, I knew how to change careers because I'd done it so many times. I knew how to figure out what I was interested in. I knew how to parlay that information in a job search, and I knew how to sell myself in an interview. So once I started helping people how to do that, I realized, hey, I actually know more than these people about this subject. And what you'll find is to think about the things for yourself where you're like, well, I know a lot of information about this, and people keep asking me for advice on it. Those are the types of things that you actually are an expert in. You are more expert at it than somebody else. So that's kind of some of the things that you're believing. Debunk those myths. Those things are not true. Here's a stat, if you will, a survey that was done. There's another resource that I highly recommend if you're interested in starting a side hustle. It's called the Side Hustle School. Side Hustle Nation, which is a podcast and a blog. I love the gentleman who started this, but he did this about all of his the biggest challenges that people were facing in his community. And the number one thing that people said was time and energy was the number one thing that was keeping them from starting the side hustle. I get the energy piece. We're tired at the end of the day. Block up a Saturday morning just to spend with just you and yourself. See if there's you can have your significant other take the kids, or Saturday morning is dedicated to you and your side hustle. Give yourself that. I think that's the biggest thing that we often don't think about is how do we do that? How do we actually set aside the time? And it's just creating boundaries in your schedule. So this is the biggest question I always ask people when they tell me, when I'm working with them on, they're thinking about launching a side hustle. And they're like, well, I don't know if I can do it. I'm not quite sure if I can. And I always tell them, it's a side hustle. It's not your full-time thing. What do you have to lose? And I promise you, you don't have anything to lose. I could only see upside in starting a side hustle because I've never seen somebody who started a side hustle who said they wish they wouldn't have done it. I don't think I've ever had that experience. So if you were that person, tell me separately because I've never heard of something like that. So I promise you, what's the worst thing that could happen? Nothing. That's what. Nothing will happen. The side hustle doesn't go anywhere. You didn't lose any money. You didn't lose your savings account. You didn't lose your health benefits. You're just doing this on the side. So these are the only things that you need to start. Is a small idea, a little bit of time to help it grow, not spending loads of time. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about keeping the time frame in which it takes a while sometimes for a side hustle to grow. And then a lot of hustle and a lot of coffee. So that's the secret really to starting a side hustle, are those three things. An idea, doesn't have to be big again, a little bit of time to help it grow, and some hustle and coffee. Awesome. Step one. So we're going to go through some steps of if you're sold now. Hopefully I've sold you on hey, I need to start a side hustle. A side hustle is going to help my family make more money. It's going to help me pay off student loan debt, and my family's going to get to go on fun vacations. I am all for that, Jenna. Now, how do I go about doing it? So these are kind of 4 or 5 steps that I've come up with to help you start through that process. So obviously the first thing you need is an idea. That's the biggest question that people always have. And I saw one earlier in the question box of product or service. Is one side hustle easier to start than the other? So I'll get to that question after we go through this slide, but there are 2 different ways you can go into it, right? Product or service. So product could be something maybe you sell on Etsy. That's a great way in which people start side hustles. So I'll give you an example of somebody who actually did that and was very successful and launched into something full-time with a product. Service. So myself, career coach. I offer a service to my clients, a product along with that. So my service/product is providing them with a new resume. So those are some things when you think about product or service. So some ideas of how to come up with those. The biggest thing that I could recommend for you is to come up with a niche. So what is something that you really love doing? What's something that you think you can make money off of? And start to brainstorm on that. There are so many, those resources that I gave you, there are so many ideas. You'd be surprised what people make money off of nowadays. So that's why I always tell people the barrier of entry is so low. People can make money off of writing reviews for very random things, like milkshakes. I've seen that happen before, something ridiculous, and make some good money off of it, then you can do it too. So What are you passionate about? Maybe you're a piano player and you want to teach people how to play piano, but you don't, so you could do that on the side, something like that. Do you have a special skill set? Maybe you're a graphic designer for fun. Maybe you went to school for graphic design, but now you're in a business type role and you want to explore that a little bit more. That's another way to think about a different skill set that you have. What do you like doing for fun? This is always a big one. What do you like to talk about in your off time? For me, I love talking about how to grow business, which is why I'm talking to you today. And I also like talking about careers and how people can be more actively involved in their careers, in designing their careers and finding work that they love, because I think it's so important. So what do you like doing for fun? Do you see a real need in the marketplace? Is there something where you're like, I wish this product existed? I wish there were people that were actually producing things that made me happy. There was a woman, there's a company right now, it's called Fashionable. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's actually a Nashville-based company. I live in Nashville now, so I'm repping all my Nashville companies, but it's a company that basically produces purses, which sounds like, oh, everyone produces purses, but it has such a social good mission to it that differentiates itself. It actually provides work for people in underprivileged countries, not just going in and gifting them, but actually building the company in within that third world country. And so they produce such great quality products. I was like, oh my gosh, this is mentioning my two world loves together, helping as much as possible, providing a social good and providing a good quality product. So where do you see that there's a need? Where do you see there's need in the marketplace? What do people always ask for your advice on? So I was giving you the example of people always ask me for my advice on their careers. And so I morphed that into, I actually did a poll of a lot of friends. I was a very weird kid. And I said, hey, what do you think I'm really good at? And I would ask a lot of my friends that because I always wanted to know, like, what do they think that I could offer? What do I have to offer? And maybe if they think that I have that to offer, maybe somebody else would think that I have that to offer and would pay me money for it. So those are some things to be thinking about is what do people always ask you for advice on? There's probably some things stirring in your head. Maybe it's advice on parenting. Maybe it's advice on your careers. I have my career coaches in the house. Maybe it's advice on, health and wellness. Maybe people always ask you, like, how do you get so fit? Tell me how you do that. Tell me about your recipes. And I'll show you some examples of people that have done that. And are you already doing something that could be charged for? Maybe you actually are. I have some friends right now. I'm looking to hire a resume writer, so if anyone's interested. But I have some friends that are like, I was doing resumes on the side, and I realized I should just, I was just helping friends out. And I realized I was really good at it, and people their resumes got seen. So it's actually, charging for that now. That's also something that you could potentially do. So that's the first thing. Step one, ideation, most important thing. So is it easier to start a product or service-based business side hustle? My personal, I'm a little bit biased, and I would say that a service is a little bit easier because you don't have to have as much startup capital. So there may be a little bit more startup capital if you have a product-based side hustle, which I've seen people that they do have to spend a little bit more money because you have hard materials and inventory. Service-based businesses are a little bit cheaper to start up, and you can start today. So I would say service-based businesses are a little bit easier. We'll get into some of these other questions later. So the step two of this part, so side hustle ideas. So I'm going to leave this up here for a couple seconds. So just to give you some ideas of some ways in which people have, done things. A lot of what people do in their side hustles is something maybe they've done in their actual job right now, and they have a unique skill set. I have a friend who is a client right now who is a teacher. I was talking about it earlier with Teachers Pay Teachers. And she does some consulting work sometimes on the side and just basically doing what she's doing in her full-time job, but offering that service and expertise to other schools across the country. And so there's probably something that you're doing in your job right now that can be translated into a side hustle. Maybe you're actually doing tax prep right now, and you could do a tax prep service for other people as well. So those are some things that I want you to be thinking about, is thinking, hey, what kind of side hustle could I possibly do? Step two, do it for free. So when I first started out, the biggest thing that you want to get is word of mouth. You want people to like the service or product that you give. And the best way to do that is to do it for free at first. So that sounds really counterintuitive. Like, Jena, didn't you tell me that we were going to make money doing this? Yes, you will get there, I promise. But you got to have a couple of people that will give you their vote of confidence that you have the capabilities to get the job done. So I started out my career, and I was telling a couple of friends, like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into this. Do you know of anybody that needs help in their career? I'll do it for free if they will give me a review and refer someone else to me. And so I did a sorority sisters, cousins resume. I redid his resume for him, and I did it for free. And I said, well, if you introduce me to somebody else, like, I would be more than happy to kind of keep helping you. And so basically what he did was he introduced me to my first paying client, who I didn't have a website at the time, but I started doing some of that for free on the side and said, hey, if I do this for free, will you refer me to somebody else? And that started the word of mouth train, the really easy marketing. And then I was able to take those opportunities and the people that have had good experiences with me and showcase them when I did start to build out my website and give what I call my praise hands. So your recommendations or referrals or reviews, those things are so impactful, especially when you're creating a product or a service, especially if you're creating a service. That I think what sets you apart from other people. And how many of you look at reviews whenever you're looking to hire somebody or you're looking to buy a product on Amazon? We all look at reviews. So doing it for free gives you the opportunity to get those reviews started, which helps with the word of mouth. Step 3, create a website. I love Squarespace. Talked about this before. Most of the people that I have side hustles started with Squarespace. You can do it for $10 a month. $10 a month, that's it. If you need help with it, more than happy to help. It's really easy. I have a lot of great, easy designers if you want to get really technical with it, but you can have a very basic website that's very clean for $10 a month, and you can do it yourself, I promise you. On that, you could start building content up, so writing things. You could be focusing on, a slew of different things. You could have pictures of yourself. You could have content. You could actually have a commerce site, but building a website is the most important thing as it comes to branding your brand. That's really where the promotion comes into play, which leads us to the next one, which is step 4, simple promotion. So a lot of people get bent out of shape when starting their side hustle because they're like, Jena, I have all these ideas and I know that I need to do marketing, but how does anyone find me? I say simple promotion is really where you should start, and then you can grow from there. You don't have to, go big or go home when you're in a side hustle. You can start small and grow from there. So the biggest thing is social media. So social media is making it very accessible and very easy for you to start your following, to start your promotion. I had a friend who I'll show you a little bit later. She started a health coaching service, and she just started out on Instagram. And she started building her following, and she actually started to get people, like 60,000 followers, which is a ton of people. I do not have that many on my Instagram. But she got a ton of followers, and it was just by her sharing her life and about her fitness journey. And so she was able to garner those people and started to build an income for herself on the side. And then she launched it full time. So social media is a really easy tool, small barrier to entry, no cost to you, only time. Next part, content marketing. So I'm a firm believer that especially if you're a service-based business, but even if you're a product-based business, content is king. It's king nowadays. It's the best way to get people to come to your website. It's the best way to become a thought leader in your space. And it's the best way for people to believe you, trust you, and know that you know what you're talking about. So I've written quite a few articles in the career advice space. I've written it for other publications, but I've also written it a ton on my own website. And so when people will come to me, I always ask them, hey, why do you go with me? Well, why is it interesting for you? Why did you could resonate with me? And they say it's because of the content you wrote. I really resonated with how you spoke about XYZ subject. And I really thought that you knew what you were talking about. So content marketing is king. You can do the same thing if you have a product-based business. I was working with my dad. He has a railing system that he's selling. So I'm not telling you guys to start a railing system, but he has a railing system. And I was telling him that he can write content about homeowners and about what it looks like if you put it out on your deck, or it's more about the lifestyle around it. So even for things as boring as railing systems, you can create content for. Partnerships, building up partnerships on social media, that's a really easy way. I have a couple of friends that I've connected with and been like, hey, I'd be happy to promote your material. Would you be happy to promote mine? Building up partnerships is a great way to collaborate with people and help build out a following. And the last piece is word of mouth. So I was reading a book recently, and the word of mouth the book was all about word of mouth and how that was actually the most impactful way in which people found that they trusted something and they chose to buy it. It was very, very most impactful, more impactful than any advertising, more impactful than anything. The best clients that I get are from word of mouth. So the more people that you tell about this, you get over your fear of failure, fear of what people are going to be thinking. The more that you talk to people about that, the more opportunities that you're going to have to actually tell people about what your services are and have them tell other people. And that will start a ripple effect. And that's when your side hustle grows. And that's when you have the beautiful choice of deciding, hey, do I want to keep this to be a side hustle, or do I want to finally make this go full time? So you have that option. And then last and final, as we were just talking about, is to grow slowly. Again, you should feel no pressure to be like the world's next Apple or the world's next Uber. Well, probably you don't want to be Uber right now, but you get my point. Grow slowly. Slow is key. I started off and I was getting so frustrated in my side hustle because I had a full-time job. I was in charge of a sales training program, and I was like, something's got to give here. Like, I want to put so much more effort into my side hustle, but I had to remind myself that it's okay to grow slow and it's okay to be small, because in a side hustle, it's supposed to be on the side. It's supposed to be small. There does come a point when you have to decide, hey, do I want to launch this full time, and do I want to put more of my effort into it? That's when you have to really make that decision. But give yourself permission to grow slowly. So when we keep going through these, I'm going to give you some examples of some people that have had some success stories. So some of these women are my friends, and would love to share them with you, their success stories. Some of them went full time with their side hustles, and some of them have just kept them as a side hustle. So this is my friend, Liz Perry. She does swim lessons in New York City, where I used to live, actually out in the Hamptons. She charges a pretty penny for that, and she works solely with people in a specific niche, so a specific target market. She works with people that worked on Wall Street, that are hedge fund managers, that are celebrities. So she somehow got into this connection of people by working out in the Hamptons, and she grew her client base pretty much only through word of mouth. Yeah, she has a website. She has some things on there, but her website is nothing to write home about. But she makes a ton of money doing this only in the summers. She is a preschool teacher during the year, and her summers, she makes more money in the summers now than she does in her preschool teaching job. So she's now thinking, hey, do I want to move this and just do this full time? Because she could probably make the same amount of money, which is crazy. So she's a preschool teacher teaching swim lessons because she used to be on the swim team when she was in high school. And now she makes a ton of money doing this. So anything. You could pretty much do anything and charge money for it nowadays. This is one of my best friends, Robin Cole. Her last name is actually Nolan. I did this wrong because she just got married this past year. So she is a lovely human who I'm a huge fan of, but she started a company called Nutshell Nutrition, but she started it first and she still does it on the side. She doesn't do this full time. She started a company called Nutshell Nutrition when she was in, she was doing getting her dietitian license. And so this started about 5 years ago, and she just started writing content. She was working in a dietitian's office as an intern, and she started writing content, started building up a following on Instagram, all about food, health, body image, some things that are very pertinent to us women. And she started to gain a lot of traction. Some of you may have even heard of her. And so she started to build this up on the side, and now she has Nutshell Nutrition, where she actually works with clients one-on-one to help them with their nutrition struggles, helping them create more balance in their life, and really providing an awesome service that she does on the side. She's a nurse practitioner. She has a nurse practitioner license. She's using that money to help pay off her school debt from all the years in being in medicine. She also has had enough success that she now has to hire somebody else to help her with the demand. So she is an awesome person who I love dearly, and she's done amazing things to help her business grow, but she does this still as a side hustle. She has some help, but she does it as a side hustle. This next person is also a Nashville native. So if you are in the Nashville area and you want new furniture for your home, like I did whenever I moved from New York to Nashville with literally nothing, no furniture, I moved with nothing. And so I had her make me some pieces. She is a dear friend. I actually met her through her other side hustle, which was an Airbnb. So she was my Airbnb host about a year ago here in Nashville, Tennessee. And so she had started this company kind of on the side, built by Stevie. She had moved into this big old house, and she was like, I need to have some furniture in my house, but I don't want to spend a ton of money at West Elm and Pottery Barn, but I like that style. How do I do that? Well, this girl taught herself how to create furniture, how to make furniture. I think my father probably wished that I would have done that and joined the family business in some way, shape, or form, but no, Stevie is the one who takes care of that. So she started this on the side, and people came to her home, and they were like, where'd you get that piece from? Where'd you get that piece from? She was like, well, I made it. And they're like, well, can you make me that? And so she started that side hustle, started on the side, and then she got laid off from her job. And it was at that point she decided, well, it's do or die. I either can go try and find a new job, or I can make this thing happen. And so she started doing this full time. So she created herself a little bit of job security, financial stability by using that side hustle and making herself go full time. I'm looking at my desk right now. It's beautiful. So if you're interested and you're in Nashville, you should check her out. This is Amber Gentry. She's also in the health and wellness space. There's a lot of people like doing side hustles in this space right now. So the biggest key is having a niche factor. So my friend Robin, she is a registered dietitian. She has all of her licensing. So if she works specifically with people with eating disorders too. So more specific, that's her niche. My friend Amber is a little bit different. She was actually my pastor's wife in New York City, and she has 3 beautiful children, and she doesn't have a lot of time, but she really loves nutrition, and she's helped me actually in my transition moving here, and helping me get my nutrition in order so that all the changes that were happening in my life, I wasn't going crazy. So Amber actually started this on the side. She took the Institute for Integrated Nutrition's course over the course of a year and just kind of started helping her friends who started doing it for free. And then she started to build up her following. She's writing content on her website, and she's growing. She's in the baby infancy stages of this. So you should check her website out, Health and Discovery, to see how she's done it. The next piece is my friend, Dara Cobb, and she is the founder of Preston and Olivia. It's a beautiful, as you can see, it's a hat company. She does a lot of accessories, but her main source of her notoriety is through the hats that she makes. They're all custom made, beautiful, beautiful hats. I have one hanging on my wall right now. And she's based out of New York City, but she started this side hustle as a part of her fashion project that she was doing when she was in school. And so she was taking a class for fun at FIT. And I think the class was like small business, and she said she had to create something. So she created an Etsy shop where she started selling hair fascinators, and it kind of grew from there. She got a lot of following. Now she's been in W Magazine. Lady Gaga is wearing her stuff. Jane Fonda's wearing her stuff, and she's really boomed. So if you also like hats, you should check out her site. So she's also an example of like starting off with something that she just loved doing, and she's grown it and built it up, and now has this beautiful website and this beautiful brand that she's built and a lot of notoriety to go with it. So you can start small, very, very small on an Etsy shop and then take it offline. So she created a product-based business. Love her story. And last thing is a little bit about my success story. So I kind of talked to you guys a little bit about it, but I started my side hustle when I was working for the Muse. I didn't have a website. I really didn't know what I was doing, what I wanted to specialize in, who I wanted to target. At first, I was targeting millennials. Now I actually target helping people that are mid in their career, how to transition out of that job into another job, because there's a lot of things that have been new since maybe the last time that they actually went through the job application process. So I started my side hustle. I really didn't know what I was doing. And I grew it it got to a point where I was pulling in about 4 figures per month on the side. And I wasn't doing any marketing for myself, purely word of mouth. I was on the Muse's platform, their coaching platform. So if you're looking for a career coach, that's a great place to look for one. You can hire me too. But then I launched it full time in 2017. So right now I've done no marketing, no added marketing. I'm not into Facebook marketing. I haven't done anything on Instagram other than try to have a consistent page. There is nothing that I've done to help propel this forward. But I'm now close to reaching 5 figures per month, and just 2 months of launching it full time. So I am right there with you. If you were thinking about launching your side hustle in the first place, I was just there. If you're thinking about launching it full time, I was also just there. So this is what I'm focusing on now. So if you're in the growth stage right now, if you have a side hustle and you want to grow it and build it up, thinking about passive income streams, what that may look like for myself and what that potentially could look like for you. And the last thing is someone asked me the other day, it was actually kind of funny. They said, so now that your side hustle became your full hustle, are you going to have another side hustle? And I thought that was actually quite funny. And I said, yeah, actually, I need to figure out what my next side hustle is going to be. So if you have any suggestions for me, you please let me know, because I'm more than willing to hear about it. And the last really thing is, before we get into questions, is I want to know what your side hustle success story is. I want you to think about this after we get off this call, off this webinar. What is something that I could monetize right now? What is something that people ask me for advice about? What's something that I want to be doing more of in my life? And why do I want to start one? So those are some things that I believe in you. I think that everybody has a side hustle in them. And I believe everyone has the opportunity to make more money and should not put all of their eggs in one basket and just rely on a company to provide you a salary. I'm so going to be in your finances when I say that. I just firmly believe that it's financially irresponsible not to have a side hustle. And I don't want you to see you like some of my clients who come to me who are so upset because they lost their job and they can't support their family. Don't let that be you. Start a side hustle today. I don't want to hear all about your success story. Thanks, guys. All right, so we got some questions, Russ, right? We should go through.
We have indeed, Jenna. We have indeed. We probably haven't got anywhere near enough time to go through all of them, but if we've got a few minutes,
sure.
Should just say that's amazing. What you've just gone through in the last 45 minutes or so, absolutely great, and I can see lots of feedback coming in as well. So yeah, if you can try and answer some of these, I know that we'd all really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So I think a couple of ones, I saw one right here is, what are some good websites to create a business website? I was Squarespace, number one. So I used Wix. I tried Wix before. I've tried using WordPress. Honestly, they're not very user-friendly. Wix may have changed in the past couple of years. I've seen some recently. They've done some new advertising, but by and large, Squarespace is my number one favorite. So easy to use, cheap, clean cut. That's what you need, a clear website. Most people ask me if I have mine done by a professional, and I've just done it myself. So that was to give you a good answer. Do you think that most companies' employers are okay with their employees working a side hustle? That is a great, great question. And can companies stop someone doing something on the side? So the answer to that is yes. So I would love to tell you this, because I have a friend of mine who actually told me, I was asking her to help me with my resume writing or just some writing in general, and she specifically has she's not allowed to, in her contract that she signed whenever she started her job, that she cannot do any extra work. So some companies do not want you to be doing that. That happens a lot in the writing world. So if you're a writer and you're in publishing or something like that, they prefer that you do not have that. So I would check with your employer. I am always err on the side of caution of being upfront about your side hustle. You don't want to be in a situation where you're working your side hustle and then an employer finds out about it and thinks you're stealing information from the company, or you are just being dishonest. I was very straight up and honest with my company when I told them what I was doing, and it made us have a better relationship. And so I highly recommend talking to your boss about it, asking them what they would think, and then also make sure that your contract doesn't say anything that you can't do it. All right. Sites to build a website. We already answered that question. Great. So how do you know what to charge when you're beginning a service business? That is a great question. So that was something I really struggled with when I was trying to figure out what did I want to do, and how was I going to price that. Pricing is always a really big discussion. A lot of those side hustle resources that I gave you are going to be really, really helpful for that. So the biggest thing that I can recommend is thinking about your services from either an hourly perspective or a task-based perspective. So what do I mean by that? Hourly basis means, okay, I'm going to charge somebody for half an hour of my time to talk about, in my instance, career coaching, right? So they're going to spend X amount of money. So I started off on the lower side. I would always recommend starting off lower so you can build up more clientele. And it's always okay to build up your prices. I was talking to somebody the other day. She's starting a fitness business. She's a personal trainer, just got a personal training license. And we were talking about how she's going to brand herself in the industry and talking about pricing. And so I said, start off small, start off, not getting paid a ton for it. And then gradually, as you gain, one, your confidence, two, you're able to actually hone in what your skill set is and be able to feel comfortable charging your worth. Because I feel very comfortable now charging what I charge for what I offer, because I know that the client is going to get the value that they can get. In the beginning, I wasn't quite sure, right? So starting off at a smaller price point at an hourly rate is sometimes best. If you're doing like a task-based thing, like for instance, in my business, a resume review or a LinkedIn revamp, those are based off of not how long it takes me to do the project, but actually getting the project done. So based off of what you do, I think it's best to see what are industry standards, what are other people charging for it. Internet's a great tool again. Barrier to entry is low. Really focusing on, what other people are charging, then maybe starting off a little bit cheaper at first and building up your clientele, building up, referrals and all that kind of stuff. So that's a really great question. I love talking pricing. If you want to talk further about that, feel free to email me. Excuse me. So I love your enthusiasm. Is that something that is a major driver in keeping you focused on working a side hustle? Any tips on how to get motivated? Yes. So I'm very excited about this topic. It is true. So I think the biggest thing with myself for focusing on keeping myself motivated. So I worked, a 40-hour work week in my regular job, and I was working towards the end because my volume goes so high. I mean, I was working probably 80 hours a week total on my business and my regular job. So that was really stressful, and I was having a hard time keeping myself motivated because I wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to have a life outside of my job, though I loved my side hustle. I think the biggest way to keep motivated is to have friends that are also doing it too. So there's a lot of really great resources out there right now and communities you can get a part of that can help you with that. and to keep yourself motivated. So I have a lot of friends that do side hustles. I have a lot of friends that have their own businesses. And if you have the ability to talk with those people and bounce ideas off of each other, you're not going to feel like you're living in this silo hole that often entrepreneurs get into because you're not quite sure if anyone else understands what you're going through. So that's one way to keep motivated, is to just keep your eye on the prize, have friends that are in the industry, and also know when to keep a balance in your life. I think that's also really important. Is there were some times where I was just going to have to be like, that client can wait till tomorrow. They will not die if I don't get their resume back to them tonight. The job description will not go away. Things like that. So I think the best way to keep motivated is just to have friends in the industry that help you with it. Cool. What's my friend's health advice Instagram account? So I have two. One is The Real Life RD. That was Robin. She's the one who started Nutshell Nutrition. And the other one was Health and Discovery. That was Amber Gentry. Health and Discovery and The Real Life RD, like registered dietitian. Very corny. I love her though. So you mentioned the importance of content marketing and partnerships. Can you explain that again, please? Yes, absolutely. So content marketing, when I'm talking about content marketing, I'm talking about literally writing content about the subject matter in which is interesting to you or what you're selling your products or services on. So for myself, I write a lot of career advice. I write a lot of life advice that comes into your career and your life and work-life balance. So those things are actually building me up as a thought leader in my space, that when someone comes to my website, they can actually read content that I've written on the subjects I'd be coaching them on. So if I'm giving away free content, it's helping them understand what are they going to get out of my sessions for them, and it's going to be personalized to them though. So that gives you credibility, and it gives you the opportunity to actually be a thought leader in your space, which is becoming the biggest trend right now. The other thing is the more content you write on your website, the more opportunities that I don't understand the technology behind it. I tried to have someone explain it to me, but something that has to do with SEO and optimization and it coming back to your website. So there's some information like that you can find on the internet, but the more content you have out there, the more opportunities that Google has to grab that content and associate your name with certain search functionality. So it's just great to have a lot of content out there. Plus, the more free stuff, more content that you give, the more opportunities that people will feel comfortable that they're actually going to get their money's worth when they talk to you in person. Partnerships are also really important. So partnerships just between other social media influencers. My friend Robin and I, the one who is the Real Life RD, we actually do collaborations. I'll write for her sometimes. So some of her followers will follow me. It's just the opportunity to work with people that are in similar lines of work. So helping people figure out their life and their careers. So we both do. And people that would, potentially be aligned with you. It's a great way to get the word out there about what you do. So that's a great question. Awesome. What if I don't have a targeted audience on my social media? These questions are so great, guys. Should I start a new account and open it up to the public? Yes and yes. So if I currently have a personal account, only my friends are on it. It's blocked, no one else can be on it. And then I have my business one, which is Jena_Viviano, which is my public one that's very targeted content. It took me a while to figure it out, drove me crazy. Instagram drove me crazy because I'm not a super creative person. And so I had to get some help. But I would definitely recommend starting a new account and opening it up to the public to make sure that the people that come to that account actually know what they're getting themselves into when they work with you. Awesome. Did having the support of your family make a big difference to you starting your side hustle? It's actually funny you say that. So I actually didn't have a lot of support when I went full time. That's not to say my family is wonderful. They're very supportive of me now. I think my mother was a little bit nervous when I started and did my side hustle full time that I was going to ruin my career and all the opportunities that I've had thus far and be destitute. My dad was secretly cheering me on in the background because he's an entrepreneur. So I think that, family definitely plays in, having your supporters in general, whether it's your family or not your family. I think either way, you need to have some people that are going to be rallying behind you. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that are in this industry or in the industry of, entrepreneurism, and they're my cheerleaders. They're the ones cheering me on, and my family is too now. And it definitely helped. My dad helped lay the groundwork of giving me advice on the things that I need to be thinking about, like the legal stuff, like the tax stuff, now that I'm a full-fledged business. But yeah, it definitely matters to have supporters. Cool. Awesome. Do you have a more complete bibliography of resources that you have? Ross, I think I can provide that potentially later, that has more information and the links to that, right?
We can indeed, and there's a few questions coming in from folk about will they be able to get a copy of the presentation, will they be able to see it again. So yes, everybody, we'll make sure we email a link to to Jena's presentation, and also the recording will be available on this very same Bright Talk platform within the next couple of hours. But yes, we'll make sure that from Jena that we get that information to everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. So how do you apply to negative reviews? I love this question because it's so hard. It's so hard to deal with. So I have gotten a few negative, when you start working with people, when you've had almost 1,000 coaching sessions like I've had at this point. My dad was telling me the other day, and a friend of mine who's been a supporter of me throughout all this, and said, I was like, oh my gosh, this person just was so nasty to me. They didn't like my services. I don't know what I did wrong. This is not like anything I had to deal with, you know. And my dad said, well, out of 1,000 people, if you get one bad person, I mean, you're doing pretty good. So I think the big thing about that is when you reply to negative reviews, I think the biggest thing is to apologize for whatever the person is mad about and realize that it's okay not to be everything to everybody. That's the biggest thing that I think I've learned through this process is I'm not going to be everything to everybody. I'm not going to come into a career coaching session and tell you what to do with your life. If you want me to do that, I'm not going to do that. If you want me to just tell you, hey, yeah, you can do it no matter what, I'm not going to tell you that either because that's not going to set you up for success. So my point is take a negative review, look at it, observe it if there actually is something that maybe you did wrong. Maybe you weren't as attentive on the phone call in my instance, or like, you know, service. Or maybe it was truly that you and the client were just not a good fit. And so sometimes negative reviews really are that. So that's the best way I have is to acknowledge to see, hey, is this something that I'm actually doing wrong? Or is it something that, you know, it's not actually something that's we're just not a good fit. So sometimes that really is the case. So I think we have time for a couple more questions. Let me take a peek at some of these. So I have a product to sell handmade necklaces. What online platforms do you recommend using? Poshmark, Etsy, Top Hatter. I actually never heard of Top Hatter. I'll have to check that out. So thanks for letting me know about that one. I think that for the handmade necklaces, I think there's a couple of different ways you can do it. I've actually seen people do it on Craigslist, ironically enough. Like Craigslist is actually a good resource for that, which is surprising. Etsy is a good shop for that. I think it's probably one of the best ones. And then also I've seen people do it on their Facebooks, actually, like sell stuff on their Facebooks. So I think there's a combination of different ways in which different platforms that you can use it on, but I also highly recommend creating your own website and branding. I think that's really crucial, is that when people see your brand, they're going to Google your brand, because you probably do that. Anytime I see somebody that I'm like interested in what they produce and I see that they don't have a website, it makes them look less legitimate. Even if their website is very plain, it makes them look way more legitimate for you to do that. So I think that there's a couple of different online platforms for that, but I've seen that Etsy is probably one of the best based off of my research. So is it important to participate in all social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat? If so, how to manage keeping the posts fresh and new? Woof, the worst. So I got so overwhelmed by social media. So I like social media. I'm a millennial. I was raised on it. Facebook started, I think, when I was a senior in high school. And you know, for me, I found the ones that worked for me. So I don't think every tool works for every single business, nor for every single person. So I don't use Snapchat. I have no idea how to use it. I tried downloading it once and I got irritated by it, so I got rid of it. Don't like Snapchat. I stick with Instagram and Facebook. Twitter, I just have one up there because I started it a couple years ago. I never post to it. Just anything that posts there is just directly fed from my website. I put up some systems in place to just have it automatically do that. But I picked Instagram and Facebook to be the ones where I spend the most time, just because I feel like for my business and the things that my people care about, those are the two platforms they're on the most. And so for myself, I think for you, choose the ones that you want to be on. Don't make yourself do a crazy Instagram account if you really don't think it's helpful for you. People that do wonderful on Instagram is people that are like in fitness or in food or in something that's very visually appealing. Maybe if you're into interior decorating or something like that. For my business, it's a little bit harder to do it on Instagram. That's why Facebook is also really important, because a lot of my business is based off the content. But that's a really, really great question. I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. Is there a difference between blog content that is on or available on a website you create on Squarespace? So when I'm talking about content, I'm usually talking about the blog. So the blog is just all the articles that are on that website. Other content that could be on a website could be like for myself. If you sign up for my newsletter, you get a free interview prep guide. That's also a piece of content that is used to help drive my business, get more subscribers, and help them be a part of my business. So that's another way in which that you can you can have it. So it's a little bit of both. So that's a really great question. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you if I did, but there is not really a difference between blogging content. It's all content, articles, that's all kind of incorporated into one thing. So I think that's all the time that we have, right, Russ, for this
Jena,
right?
Unfortunately it is, and the questions are just keeping on coming in. It's absolutely amazing. Just for everybody who's joined us, Jena's very kindly said that she will have a look at the questions that you sent. We will make sure that we try and get those answers to you either by email or by blog posts. So don't worry about that, and we'll make sure that you get all the information from the presentation and the link to watch it again, as well as Jena's website details, so that you can see exactly what she's doing and learn more about the great tips. Jena, what an amazing webinar! I know that I'm speaking for absolutely everybody who's joined us today when I say how much you've taught us. Some excellent advice. Love the fact that you gave us those the success stories as well. Lots of people asking about ideas. I know that I think all of us are going to be going away there and really getting ourselves sorted and getting our side hustles up and running. So thank you so much to you for joining us and for giving us your time. Thank you to everybody else for joining us as well. I know that you've got a great deal from it. On behalf of NAPW, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, guys.